This is Salim bin Muhammad Rafi, your host, and here is my YouTube channel Zamir Universal. When you see a stubborn and adamant and a person who is, in my view, mentally unfit to be a prime minister of a rogue state and has displaced more than 2 million people from a small strip of Gaza and has hijacked the world peace, and look at the economic loss, look at the hatred, look at the Red Sea, look at the Mediterranean Sea, look at those cargo ships carrying food and essentials and medicine and oil and gas, and look what this one man is being allowed to do. And unfortunately, he is absolutely crazy, nothing, and he should be behind the bars. Even if you have him examined mentally, you will find that he is mentally unfit, mentally deranged, and he has got dementia and schizophrenic, and he is a person who is suffering from meganomania. He is suffering from hatred, and he thinks everybody is his enemy, and he is losing somebody else's young sons and daughters, and is forcing them, and I think living in a fool's paradise after losing hundreds and thousands of young Israeli soldiers, old Israeli soldiers, having them killed, having him south as well as his north. Most of his, the ports are now empty, most of the hotels are empty, most of the businesses are closed, there are no tourists, the people are, there is the greatest exodus you are seeing, the people he collected over 75 years from all across the world. Many were scum of the society with dual nationality have left Israel, and is now is the golden chance. And I personally will promote that the Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and Jordan and Egypt and Syria will never ever, and Yemen and Saudi Arabia will never ever again have this opportunity that Israel is being governed by such a stupid, such a mentally deranged, such a person who is and does not care for other people's children. So he gives a damn to the hostages, whether they are retired generals or they are Mossads or they are young soldiers or they are old elderly people suffering from diabetes and hypertension. All he cares about is that he can avoid going to jail for his corruption and not can stick to this, and he's like daydreaming that he is going to win. On earth he is going to not win, he is going to have the most humiliating defeat, and he is going to destroy Israel, and he is the person who will break Israel, not only partition it, will it break it into small pieces, and only a small tiny enclave where only few thousand Jews can stay. The rest will have to either they will be seen to be killed or drowned in that ocean or bombed, because the time has come, and it's coming soon, that the Russia and China are going to provide them anti-air defense systems. So the superiority of this going and bombing the unarmed, the Hamas as well as the Hezbollahs going and getting their F-16 and going and bombing them, they will be no more, because they'll get them down, they'll shoot them down. And that's what I think is already in the air and is coming. And apart from destroying their electromagnetic wave, they're all there making their computers berserk and getting their cities sink into pitch darkness, and all their defense systems, being going berserk, their destroyers, their iron domes, all then put out of function, and having them killed like sitting ducks. This man is the one, unless the Jews themselves, the people out on the road in Israel, unless they get rid of them from his collar and either beat him up or drag him to a mental hospital or a psychiatric ward or take him to a prison and have the Chief Justice or to sentence him to either death or to life sentence, because unless this man, unless you get rid of this man and you get rid of him now, then you are not going to have any war council, you are not going to have any cancer, you are not going to have any country, you are not going to have any port, you are not going to have any businesses, you are not going to have any companies stay there of which you have been proud. All your agriculture, all your trade, all your manufacturing is come to a halt, and it is only a matter of weeks. He talks of nonsense about that he is going to eliminate Hamas. How the hell can anyone eliminate ideology? You can't. Up until now, even not 1% of that. Still they come out in the north, which you think you have cleaned, and they come and kill you. And see, or if they only kill you, you kill your own people, and you kill them in not in 10 or 20 or 30s. So recently you have killed the hostages yourself, and that boy, you gassed him and killed him, and then before that those three holding the white flag, you killed them. So you are a killer. No, you're not a killer of the women and children and unarmed civilians. Now you are pushing your luck, and with the treaty with which you lived with that Anwar Sadat, with the Egypt, and you know that these are the same Egyptians who enslaved you people, the pharaohs, for thousands of years. Unless Prophet Moses had got you out of that slavery, you would still be there, and all your male children would have been killed, and all your women have been just to insult you to be there. You came out of it, and you are repeating that. There's one crazy man, he is insisting, and he's got few more crazy with him, which are running Israel and not the Jewish Israeli population. And it's about time for them to get rid of this man, and unless they do it, there won't be anything. And I am really shocked to see how insulting this mentally deranged man has been to the state secretary, who himself is a Jew, and he came empty-handed and is gone empty-handed. They are the most ungrateful people for the whole world. So how on earth the country who gave them billions of dollars in aid for the last 75 years is now showing his bloody and filthy, is scorning at them, he is intimidating them, and the indignation that man has to feel to go empty-handed back. And he's, as I said, is daydreaming that he's going to defeat Hamas. He is not. Every one of you know that he is not. He's lost thousands of soldiers, and more than 30,000 have already got their depression symptom, and they have their post-traumatic syndrome. Many are crippled and they cannot go back and fight. He's increasing the retirement age. He's called the retired pilots. Where on earth he's going to have these older people to go and fight and face people who keep their life on their hands, and they come out from anywhere and they'll kill them. And no part of north they can say that it's there, because their tunnels are hundreds of miles right inside Israel. I think almost the whole of Israel underneath is the tunnels. So you are living at the top with your barbed wires and your concrete walls.
Fourth symptom of schizophrenia is disorganized behavior. And this is more than having a junkie room. This is major levels of internal disorganization that get in the way of daily functioning. I've seen people who are so impaired that they smear feces on the wall. Another way it can look is the person has outbursts of agitation. Sometimes it can be outbursts of laughing for seemingly no reason. And this is not because you're thinking about a funny video you've watched. You may be thinking, might not be thinking about anything, and may even feel like your head is completely empty, but you're laughing and disturbing people. The last manifestation of schizophrenia is negative symptoms, and this is not as easy to recognize or understand. The first 4 symptoms that I mentioned are called positive symptoms. The best way to think about the negative symptoms is you're not responding to your environment in the usual expected way. And it's usually not something that you notice about yourself. What other people will notice is they'll see dramatically decreased facial expressions or aim last week. Does that mean I'm schizophrenic? No, not from that one symptom alone. In fact, schizophrenia is so disabling, you shouldn't need to think hard to find 2 of these things that you did sometime in the past and question if you have schizophrenia. A couple of features that go along with this is lack of insight and cognitive problems. When you're delusional, you don't know that you're delusional. It's real to you. You only realize it's a delusion after the symptoms have passed. And they don't pass in a couple of hours, at least not when it's from schizophrenia. When it comes to the hallucinations, some people can experience continual voices talking in the background that they're able to ignore as long as their ability to ignore it depends on the volume of the voices and what they're saying. I've had some patients who were comforted by the presence of the voices as long as they weren't saying mean things, because with the voices, they didn't feel alone. And that's in contrast to someone who bangs their head because the voices are just so overwhelming for them. Another feature of schizophrenia that sets it apart from other illnesses where psychosis is present is cognitive deficits. These cognitive deficits are things like memory problems, life planning and organizational problems, and impaired thought processing. And this is one of the biggest differences in someone with bipolar disorder who becomes psychotic and the person with schizophrenia. So if you were to look at both people side by side while they are in a psychotic state, the person with bipolar disorder will have prominent mood symptoms like depression or mania, and the person with schizophrenia will not. The person with bipolar disorder will have delusions that usually match their mood state at the time. So if the person's depressed, their delusions may have excessively guilty themes to them, like they don't deserve to live or they've disappointed the world in some way. Whereas the person with schizophrenia will have mood-neutral delusions that are usually, but not always, bizarre. A non-bizarre delusion would be that all doctors in the hospital are poisoning you by putting toxins in your pills. Also, the
यूनिवर्सल टेलीविजन को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें। उसके बाद बेल बटन पे क्लिक करें और अपने कमेंट्स के सेक्शन में अपने कीमती जो ख्यालात का इजहार ज़रूर